recently had the opportunity to work with my friend Debbie, and a lot of you know her as Quiche My Grits. And I have to say, every time I think of that, I think of the show from the 70s and 80s, Alice, when Flo would say, "Kiss my grits." I loved her blog from the first time I saw her. She does an excellent job, and I was honored to work on a recipe that was based and worked with my caw sauce. So I'm going to go through the ingredients and the steps, and the first thing you're going to do is you have your ground hamburger. And we're going to add 2 tablespoons of caw sauce, and this is one of those recipes, we have measurements in place, but if you want to add more caw sauce or other seasonings, it's all dependent on taste. This is just a basic guideline. So we're going to put that in. It calls for 2 tablespoons of your favorite steak seasoning. I'm using Kinder's steak seasoning. It calls for 2 tablespoons. I like a little extra flavor, so I added a little extra to mine. And some people I know prefer doing all of their wet ingredients or dry. This is one of those recipes. It doesn't matter. You're just going to put it all in here, and then we're going to mix it together. I took my food processor prior, and I have onions and I have red pepper. You can shred them, you can dice them. You just want them finely chopped so they'll blend well in your meatballs. So I'm not going to use all of this. Just enough to get that color and that texture and taste that I'm looking for. Then we're going to add 1 egg. And then we're going to add a cup of your favorite plain breadcrumbs or panko. And then I'm going to mix these all together. The actual name of the recipe, and I'm sorry I didn't tell you in the beginning, is cheesy meatball sliders. Debbie and I wanted something that would certainly give a good representation of caw sauce, and something that you can make a lot of or little of. When you go to her website, quichemygrits.com, she will answer a lot of your questions, like, can you freeze these meatballs and use them later? And this actual recipe that you'll look at on her site did 24 meatballs. But for the sake of doing the recipe today for the video, I'm just going to be using a smaller amount. It did make 24, which was a lot for us, and we got to share some with family. So you're going to mix all this together, and you want to incorporate it all good. So you're getting all the onion, the steak seasoning, the caw sauce, and the breadcrumbs. So this may take me a few minutes to get it the way I want it. Once I incorporate this, I have a baking sheet, and you can use cooking spray. I use Reynolds Wrap, the non-stick version. That way my meatballs don't stick and they're easy to remove. So now we've got to this part. You take off your gloves. I have a ice cream scoop. I use this for ice cream. Well, obviously it's a small scoop. I use it for fruit. Let's say you're doing stuffed strawberries. This is ideal for that. This is a perfect size for me. When you're using this size of scoop, you can get 2 of these meatballs onto each slider. And I'm using these brioche buns. So 2 smaller ones are perfect. So what you're gonna do, you're basically gonna just scoop out and do your meatballs. And I'm always hands-on. I like to do it like that. And we're just gonna put it on our tray. And I'm gonna do a couple more just so you see how I'm doing those. And we chose the red peppers. I like the sweetness of a red pepper along with the onion. But if you want to do green peppers or mix it up, do jalapenos, so it's a little bit spicier. Any of those are great. So I'm going to do 1 more of these. And then we're going to go to our next step, which is you take the back side of your scoop and you're going to make an indentation And the first time I practiced with this, I made the mistake of not greasing my scoop. You want to take vegetable spray and spray this, and then it's easy to put it in and make the indentation, and it's not going to stick to your hamburger meatball mixture. All right, once you have that done, I have taken, the recipe calls for the Baby Bell cheese, which I love. I love the creaminess of it. It melts perfectly. If you can't find that, like I couldn't find it this morning, you're just going to take mozzarella sticks or any soft, creamy cheese, and you're going to put this in here, and it doesn't have to be perfect. You're going to want to mold your meatball around the string cheese. And some of these are bigger than others, so let's take this one. And you're just going to mold it around. And later on, it'll be a ooey gooey mixture that you'll love to eat. One more of these. And that is what you're going to do, and you're going to fill your tray. Now you're going to preheat your oven to 350. I'm going to finish making my meatballs. We pop them in the oven, and we're going to take them out in 15 minutes because at that point, the cheese does start to ooze out of the meatballs. And then we're going to do the next step. Okay, so now my meatballs have come out. Like I told you before, you put them in the oven for 15 minutes at 350, and then you're going to pull them out because we have found that when you cook them, the cheese starts to come out. So come here. And by the way, I want to say thank you to my husband, John, who's doing the filming. So John, come in. I want you to see the cheese. This is the string cheese, the mozzarella. So see how that ooey gooey stuff? So we're going to put 2 of these on each one. And this is the first of many steps we're going to do. I'm using the brioche buns. When Debbie first created the recipe, she found out that these are very sturdy. And why do you want them sturdy? Because you want them to hold not only the meatballs, but the caw sauce, and you want them to stay firm when you go to eat them. So we've got these on two on each of the buns. The next thing you're going to do is, once again, you can add more or less of the caw sauce, and you're just going to pour some of that on, and if it gets off of the bun, that is okay. You want to be able to taste it and see it. So we're going to pour that on. And the next step that I'm going to do, I have smoked cheddar cheese that John recently smoked. He does an excellent job, by the way. And I'm just going to put some thinly sliced on here. You don't want to cut it too thick. I cut it too thick the first time I did the recipe, and it didn't melt. And you can add 2 or 3 pieces. Then we're going to firmly put the bun on top. And we're going to repeat the same thing over here on this one. And once you have as much sauce and cheese as you want, you're going to put the tops back on. And then the final touch before putting them back into the oven, I've melted some butter. You want to brush the top of your brioche buns. Look at that nice shine, all that good buttery deliciousness. And then the very last thing is your everything basil seasoning. Bagel seasoning. Everything bagel seasoning. You can just put it as liberally as you want on top or as a little bit. I think it adds a good crunch and it adds to the appearance. Now, this is the end of this step. Now you're going to finish doing your meatballs. You're going to put them back into the oven at 350 for another 10-15 minutes, and you want to eyeball it. And by eyeballing it, I mean you want to look at it. Once you see that your cheese has melted and you can tell that the whole thing is warm, you can pull them out. What I do recommend, and what we decided to do when Debbie did the recipe, when you put them back in the oven this time, you're going to put the Reynolds wrap on top of them. That keeps your bun from getting burnt to hard or crusty. You want it to still have that light taste to it when you have them. So I'm going to put these in the oven, and then I'm going to come back and show you the finished product. We just pulled the cheesy meatball sliders out of the oven. So if John can get a up close shot, you can see the mozzarella melted and it blended in with the other cheddar cheese and the sauce and the meatballs themselves. So I'm very pleased with the finished product. If you have any questions about the recipe, or if you want the recipe itself, just head over to quichemygrits.com and look under cheesy meatball sliders and check out all the other wonderful recipes there. I want to thank you for joining me today and give me your support. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, I ask you to just click on subscribe, give me a like. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you soon.